What's going on, everybody? It's time for another episode of Bleav in Kentucky on the Bleav Podcast Network, the number one podcast network for professionals, alongside Double Zero, the 96 champ. My name is Vinny Hardy. I'm with Tony Delk. What's good, TD?
Vinny, I'm out in this Atlanta rain, but you know what? I'm moving right along. I'm happy to be here today. I know we're going to have a phenomenal show with a really good guest that's going to surprise people with all the knowledge that he's gonna fill their brains with. So happy to be here.
That's it. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. I grew up in Harlan County watching him back in the day on WKYT. He hosts the Big Blue Insider on 6:30 a.m. WLAP in Lexington now. He's a Packers fan, TD. I don't know if we can't hold that against him. I don't guess. You might.
No.
I can't either. Considering what they did to your
can't.
Titans earlier this year, you might. But anyway,
hey, hold on. That was a snow game. Come on now. You already know how you should know that. You know how Tennessee shut down with 2 or 3 inches of snow. So do you expect our players to be able to play in snow? Absolutely not.
This is true. We have Mr. Dick Gabriel on. Also, you hear him on the UK Sports Network, sideline reporting for football games. You hear him with baseball games. Look, he does it all. We got Dick Gabriel on Bleav in Kentucky. How you doing, Dick?
I'm good, fellas. How you doing? Glad to be here.
Glad to
Dick,
have you.
Absolutely. Dick, you can kind of fill us in. I know you do, a lot of reporting on all the different sports. You're very knowledgeable about, football, basketball, baseball. But I want to pick your brain on baseball because it seems like the SEC conference has 9 or 10 teams ranked. Is the conference that good?
Yeah, it really is, Tony. And, and I think one of the biggest reasons is money, frankly. I mean, schools are pouring resources into baseball, and they're paying their coaches more. They're paying their assistants more. The facilities are phenomenal. I don't know if you guys have been to the new stadium over on the UK campus, but it's just outstanding. And, with the SEC network being what it is, there's more interest in baseball. And if they can just get a little bit of cooperation from the pros, I really Bleav that at some point in the near future, they're going to slide the schedule to warmer weather, maybe just 3 weeks. And therefore, you'll be able to put more people in the stands and sell more tickets and make a little more money.
So you're saying so revenue is going to go up if they were to decide to make that decision?
Absolutely, because look, we all know Kentucky's the northernmost school, and people aren't going to show up till the weather changes, but that's the case at a lot of places, although you've got some schools where people show up regardless. The biggest thing you got to do is win, but when you look at schools like Mississippi State, LSU, Arkansas, Vanderbilt doesn't draw that much, but Vandy doesn't draw for much of anything, even though they've got an incredible program. But, if it's a big series, they'll sell out. But, if you win, you know how it is, Tony. You played for a program that won a few games. Keep winning, people are going to show up.
Oh, they're coming. You have a lot of people that like to get on the bandwagon. So, you start winning, you get ranked, and before you know it, you got televised games, you have more people coming out. So you are right about the support. But, when I look at baseball, and I know Vanderbilt, what makes them so good is pitching. So when we look at the pitching of all these teams, like what's the separation? What's so different from Vandy than you would say like the teams that are ranked in the other teams that are ranked in the top 5?
Well, that's a great question, and very few people really know how this works. Here's the deal. Your sport, basketball, everybody got a Scully unless they were a walk-on, right? But what do they have? 11 Scullies, 12, something like that. In baseball, you have 11.7. You got to split it up among everybody else, okay? Now, some guys are in on academic grants. Some guys are in on a little bit of money. Every once in a while, you'll get an A.J. Reed, who was the best player in college baseball, and he'll get either a full ride or close to a full ride. Vanderbilt has a great thing going with so many grants available through that school that a lot of those kids who play for Vandy are on academic grants. And so they'll go out and they'll find a kid who is a great baseball player, but qualifies academically for money. And
Wow.
a few schools, Stanford does that as well. They're generally schools of that caliber. There's a little bit of that at other schools, but Vandy has done a great job of building its program that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's obviously an advantage for Vanderbilt, but if it were that easy, everybody else would go out and do it. So I don't know if that's ever going to change. I don't know if baseball is ever going to get more funding for scholarships, but until it does, that's kind of a built-in edge. Louisville has a similar advantage. So, it's something they don't like to talk about because if coaches complain about it, now it sounds like they're bad-mouthing academics, and you really can't do that.
Right. Yeah. You, of course, you covered the game today. The Cats beat EKU 6-3.
Right.
Nick Mingione just got an extension, the head coach for UK baseball. What, in his heart of hearts, when we saw the hot start when he came, and then the program dipped a little bit. Tony talked about how elite it is in the SEC. You guys mentioned Vanderbilt and LSU. Where do you think the program is this year in the landscape of the SEC? And then Nick Mingione's and their staff's heart of hearts, what kind of team do they think they have this year? Are they contending? Are they a year or two away? Where's Kentucky at in the big picture in the SEC this year?
Well, when you say contending, are they contending for an SEC title? I don't know if they're that good. What they need to contend for is an NCAA tournament bid, get into the SEC tournament, win enough games to where they can be active in the postseason. The answer to that is, yeah, I think they do. I think they believe they have that. Here's the thing. Nick comes in, like you said, the first year. Yeah, he inherited a lot of players. He had to re-recruit some guys, but you have to understand that the guys that he inherited weren't really thinking. Some of them weren't even going to come back. They had just kind of felt like they'd been, played out and they'd had all they wanted. They never really talked about going to Omaha. They never really thought that much about going to the postseason. They were just going week to week, and sometimes that's what the SEC does. First thing Mingione came in and did was he started using the hashtag Omaha, which, as you guys know, means College World Series. That's just code for the top in college baseball. And if you've ever been to that event, if you've never been, I urge you to go. It's awesome. It's a great sporting event. So anyhow, he had to convince these guys that they were good. The first weekend series they had, because I went with them to do radio, was North Carolina, and they got swept. But in every game, they had the tying run at the plate or on base in the 8th inning or later against the top 10 program. So after the last game was done, I'm packing up the radio gear and I'm trying to hustle to get to the bus, right? And Tony, you know how it is when guys have to rush to get to the bus to get out of town. I looked over in the dugout and all the players and Nick were still in there. Nick spent 20 minutes after that last game saying, guys, we just got swept, but let me tell you what, we're good. You're good. You can do this. He had to convince those guys, and it took him about a month to convince them that they were really good enough. And you saw what happened. They won an NCAA regional. And they were 2 wins from going to Omaha.
Yeah.
Now, the following year, they got off to a great start, Vinny. I don't know if you remember this, but they were tearing it up. They went down to Houston, to Minute Maid Park, played in a round robin, killed everybody, hit home runs out of the state of Texas, but little by little, injuries took over. And by the time the middle of the SEC season rolled around, they were out of pitchers. And by the last weekend, when they played Vandy, they had no starters. They were starting relief pitchers. Man. So 2018 should have been a really good year, and it wasn't. 2019, they weren't any good. Last year they were good, but then you know what happened. So that's kind of a long answer, but I think they've got really good chemistry. They've got a good mix of new players, freshmen, transfers. They've got good veterans back, so they got a shot. And that's all you can ask.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think with the COVID situation and what the NCAA did, allowing these guys to come back, I think, you think that made the conference even stronger?
Absolutely. Kentucky's got some guys, what they're calling graduate seniors. I like the super seniors tag, but man, everybody's got them. Now some programs, their veterans were good enough to go on to pro ball, but
Right.
everybody now has built-in depth that they've never had before. It's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think it's helped the programs that are toward the bottom half, like Kentucky, probably more than the ones at the top, because as I said, their best guys went pro.
And speaking of COVID, I saw where you mentioned that you had it a couple months or so ago. How are you feeling? Since
I'm good. I'm good now. Thank you. I got it in October, and I really believe that it was after the road trip to Missouri, which was not a great road trip for the football team.
Yeah.
And then you might recall that was the open day, right? Well, that was also Breeders' Cup week, and Tom Leach had to be tested in order to be allowed to work the Breeders' Cup. He tested positive, so he called me because we had spent the whole weekend together in a car driving back and forth to Missouri. He said, "Get yourself tested," and sure enough, I was positive. And buddy, it kicked my butt. And thankfully, there was that open date for football because I spent, about 10 days flat on my back. It just drains you, at least me. Everybody's different. But with me, it just drained me of all my energy, achy, coughing. I had what they call COVID pneumonia. I didn't lose my smell or taste. Didn't have a high fever, but I had the other symptoms. It was not fun. So all these people that think it's a hoax or won't wear a mask or whatever, it drives me up a wall.
So Dick, so what you're telling us is that Leach gave it to you in so many words. That's what it sounds like.
That or we or we got it together somewhere on the road in Missouri. But I do blame Tom. Yes.
Hey, thanks for saying that. So when I talk to Leach, I'm be like, Leach, come on, man. Were you not wearing your mask or were you not following the protocol? And I know Leach.
No, he did. We did everything we could, but go on the road, man. You're rolling the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Tom Leach, I was listening to him this morning on the Leach Report, and he said you're going to be filling in tomorrow. And he always does the preview of whoever Kentucky's playing. He'll usually get that team's play-by-play guy. So he had play-by-play guy on today, and he talked about a story because he talked about how he was sick to his stomach, and he had to leave. The only time it's happened during the game, he had to go, and he was sick to his stomach. So you know what that means. And he said he had to get you to fill in for him. So from your perspective, what was that like? You having to go do play-by-play on the spot like that with no notice?
That was crazy, man. I'm sitting in the end zone at the press table. This is back before they stuck us all in the press box. I was just thinking about this the other day. It's funny you said that. And the producer, he turned to our producer at the time, Mike Dodson, and he said, I don't know if I can keep going. And yeah, he was doing the game holding a trash can under his chin for the reason you alluded to. So anyway, Mike runs over to me and he says, I might need you. And he says, Tom is not feeling good. And I looked across the way and I saw that garbage can. I went, oh my gosh. I said, okay, well, just let me know. So he goes running back and then he turns around and he yells, well, come on. I'm like, oh, okay. You want me now? So I go running around the corner at the press table. And by the time I get there, Tom has made a beeline for the back.
Wow.
And one of the team doctors went with him and gave him a shot of something. I don't know what it was, but I did about 3 or 4 minutes. It was senior night. It was Preston LeMaster got some minutes and he had a couple 3-pointers. Remember that game? Mm-hmm. And so I filled in for Tom. And it's not the first time I did a UK game though. In 1979, it was a 79-80 season, and Kaywood Ledford and Ralph Hacker were still doing games. Well, that was the first game in Springfield, Mass, the first Hall of Fame game, and it was Kentucky and Duke. And so Ralph and Kaywood were in Florida doing football. So I did the basketball game in Massachusetts with none other than Jock Sutherland, who later ended up on the U of L network.
Yeah.
Jock and I went up to UMass, and it was Sam Bowie's first game, and Dirk Minifield and that group. Okay. So I'm one of 4 people who ever filled in for Kaywood Ledford. And then for 3 minutes, I filled in for Tom Leach.
That is distinctive honors right there, Gabe. Very unique. Very unique. Speaking of senior night, look, Kentucky just lost to Florida on senior night, playing Ole Miss right now as we speak. TD, I'm flashing back to your senior night, 96. Y'all beat Vanderbilt 101-63. You had 23 points in 27 minutes. What do you remember about the game? What do you remember about the days leading up to your final game in Rupp Arena as a senior?
Just my mom being there. My mom had never come to a game. That was her first game in Rupp Arena was senior night. My mama was older, so she really didn't travel, and I really didn't think she was going to come. My brother was like, "Man, I'm bringing mom up." I was like, "For real?" Because I mean, she had never come to my freshman, sophomore, junior, that senior game. But just having my mom in the house, pitching with her, my brother, that night with Walter, Mark Pope, and just being a special team. I think at that point we hadn't lost the SEC game. So that was just a special year that was leading us towards the Final Four and, eventually cutting down the nets. But just having my mom there was probably the most special moment I can think of. It's not even, beating down Vanderbilt, having our seniors, just be a part of something that we saw so many times. I remember my junior year, I think we played LSU for a senior night. And, just Chris Harrison. Yeah, it was tough just to see those guys go out. And when you play that last game as a big blue player, it's over with. You're thinking like, gosh, not even thinking about jersey getting retired, winning a championship. It's like, this is the last game as a collegiate athlete I'm going to play in Rupp Arena. And you have so many memories, with winning and losing. Just those guys that I came in with. I came in with Walter McCart. I came in with Jared Prickett. I came in with Roger Rose, who left and transferred to USC. Rodney Dent was JUCO All-American, played 2 years with him. So a lot of things flash in your head going to a Final Four. Just the 24,000 fans there. So, just being a part of history was something that, as I look back on, it was definitely a special night. But for me, just having my mom there, that was like the icing on the cake for me. Because that lady was like, I'm not coming. And she only came to watch me play live, I want to say 3 times. My 8th grade middle school last game, my senior night in high school, and my senior night in college. So it was always special to have her in the building. And I can remember going back to high school, she came and I had one of probably my second best high school game. I had 50 points, 20 rebounds. My mom left at halftime. She said it was too loud. So it lets you know what kind of mom I had. But no, special lady though, special lady.
What does she think about Rupp Arena? The first time she's there was your last game. The whole Big Blue Nation, Lexington, Rupp Arena. What does she think about that whole scene?
My mom, like I said, when you come from a small town that's only 10,000 people, can you imagine walking in to Rupp Arena, you're hearing and seeing 24,000 people. So I know she couldn't wait to get out of that building. She was there, and I remember her because my mom, she was so humble. And
we just lost Tony.
Yeah.
We'll get him to jump back in right quick. But yeah, especially talking about his mom's first time at Rupp.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely, we've talked about her at different points and times in the podcast, and he talks about it's really hard to impress her. He come in and say this and that and the other, and she, no reaction, he gets that from her too. He's hard to impress, like with kids in his academy and stuff like that. I said, you get that from your mom? Absolutely. So I'm hard to impress just like she is. So he gets it honest, but we get Tony.
Yeah, sorry about it. Let me finish my story. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So she was a humble lady. So I felt like she was out of place. Like she was nervous. I'm like, she was more nervous than me. And it was so funny because all my teammates were like, Tony, you gonna cry? I'm like, no, I'm not. I knew I wasn't gonna cry. I was just happy that, I'll tell you something else that made me happy too. I knew I only had so many more practice left with Coach Pitino. So, and Dick, you probably been to some practice. Like when I tell you, I was thinking, I'm like, man, I can't wait to not run up and down that court and press anymore. I said, I want to be free from just that kind of practice. But, it was, like I said, Coach Pitino was, when I look back and reflect on him as a coach, and he got the most out of everybody from myself to Cameron Mills, Jeff Shepard, Jared Prickett, Anthony Epps. I mean, I can just go down to Nazir Muhammad. I can just go down the line with how all of us competed and how he got everything out of us. Like when I left, I felt like I gave everything I had to give in those 4 years.
I got to tell you, Tony, when we did that documentary on your team, on your championship team, we all got together in Miami and which I really enjoyed talking to you guys because you told some great stories I had never heard. But I will tell you this, that going into that project, and Cameron Mills was the driving force, as you know, in his mind, the theme of the entire story was going to be how terrified we all were of Rick Pitino. And the more I talked with you guys, I had to make him understand you guys weren't, I mean, you were, but you weren't. It wasn't, the story became not how terrified we are, but how's he going to do this? Because all you guys during the interviews talked about the fact that there was so much talent and none of you guys could figure out how's Pitino going to put this team together? Who's going to play where? You were the point guard for a couple games. That didn't work. Who's going to start? What's he going to do with Antoine? That kind of stuff. So that's what the game, or that's what the story became, was how's he going to put all these pieces together? Now, Cameron was terrified of him, but and I know you guys.
He was scared anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Cam was scared the first day he came. He came in practice with us. He was scared. But you know what, Dick? What's so funny, and people always talking about me playing the point guard, but it's funny because everybody act like we lost against EKU. We lost against UMass.
Right.
UMass, let's not forget, UMass stayed number one all year.
That's right.
Until we beat them. Think about this now. Until we beat them. So yeah, Anthony came on and he was able to be the point guard, but I have to remind people, we didn't just lose to a team that wasn't good. I said that team remained number one. They beat us. We were number two all year. They were number one the rest of the year. So they didn't lose until maybe, I want to say, either conference championship, or to us, they only had 2 losses, just like ourselves when we finished. So, people said, well, it was a good change, but even if we had probably beaten them, I still think that they were just that good of a team. It didn't matter who was at the point guard. They were just ready to play us, and they like us. They returned all their players from an Elite Eight game.
Yes.
So we didn't just walk on the court and play against a team that that was inferior or feared us. They had a really good team just like we did. Right. So it was I reflect on just like you said with Coach P. It's kind of like as a son, you don't want to disappoint your mom, and that's how we felt with Coach Pitino and all those, Jim O'Brien, everybody that put so much time in, because what people behind the scene don't understand is that, these guys really sacrificed, so much time away from their family, to make sure that we were the best team in the country that year. And I reflect on, so many stories with, Coach Pitino. I'm walking in, I'll be up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and Coach Pitino was there. I'm like, God, dude, I'm thinking to myself, does this man ever sleep? and here's another story. So not only did he sleep, he didn't allow his assistant coach to sleep. Yeah. So if he was playing basketball at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, everybody had to be there on the staff. They didn't leave until Coach Pitino left. And Coach P might be on campus from 6 in the morning to like 11 to 12. Like, he was relentless. When it comes to, he was a machine. I never come across a machine like Coach Pitino.
Right. Got to take a quick second and make sure we mention one of our sponsors, eBay. They're in the sneaker game. Tony's a big sneaker guy, so eBay is now involved with sneakers too. Whether it's rare dead stock or the latest release, find the exact shoe you're looking for. As the original sneaker marketplace, eBay is the place to go to cop the pair you've been eyeing. With eBay's authenticity guarantee, your sneakers are meticulously inspected by independent professional authenticators. A team of experienced sneaker authenticators verify the box, logo, stitching, and dozens of other inspection points. Each sneaker also receives an authenticity guarantee tag that includes a digital stamp of authenticity, and it also protects sellers with a verified return process. And for sneaker sellers out there, eBay has eliminated selling fees on sneakers $100 and up, making it free to sell or flip your collection. So go to ebay.com/sneakers today. eBay, the world's best destination for discovering great value and unique selection. I got to just hit y'all with a quote real quick. Bruiser Flint said it a few weeks ago, and it just stuck with me because it's his first year at Kentucky. Devin Askew was a freshman at Kentucky. They hadn't known each other that long, both of them figuring stuff out here. But he said that Devin Askew was the hardest working player he's ever seen a few weeks ago when he spoke to the media. And we've all heard that he's one of those West Coast kids, but he's not trying to transfer back closer to home, a la Johnny Juzang or Jamal Baker. I'm not saying that Bruiser's lying. I was just surprised to hear him say that, considering how long he's been coaching and all the players he's come across. So what do you guys think when you hear a quote like that? For him to just after a few weeks say that Devin Askew is the hardest working player he's ever seen.
What do you think, Tony? I'll answer, but I want TD to go first.
I mean, that's tough, man. And you're right, Vinny. He has seen a lot of players. And maybe I don't know if he's delusional right now, and he's trying to win some fans in Kentucky. But I mean, we've all come across some kids that work extremely hard. I think once you get to that level, I really didn't know how hard I really worked until I left Kentucky. I was like, when I came in as a high school player, I thought I worked hard as a high school player, but the intensity level was at a whole another height. It was like being at the mountaintop. Like I'd never been to the mountain. I was in the valley, but I'm like, man, being at the mountaintop, like to stay here, there was not a whole lot of oxygen up there. And I thought in my mind, I was the hardest working player. I'm sure, Derek probably thought he was the hardest working player. Walter thought, all of us thought, we all worked hard. So it's hard for a coach to say that another player is working harder than the next player, because in our bodies, I knew I was giving you everything I could possibly give you. Like there was nothing else I could give you. And if anyone ever said I wasn't playing hard or I didn't play hard, it was an insult. Like I was insulted. I felt like, do you really understand? Like my body and what I've sacrificed is something that most players would love to do, but most players don't do it all the time. I say once I learned how to work hard, it was every day. Like it was like you knew every day I was gonna give you 100%. So to say that, I don't know. Maybe he's trying to win some fans there in Kentucky. I don't know.
Well, my take on, first of all, Tony had the cramps to prove how hard he was working. There's no question about that. But I really believe that this was a little bit of a head game. I think that Bruiser was probably trying, and has been probably trying, to keep Devin from getting down on himself, because he's been struggling. There's no question about that. He's been taking some flack on social media, and I'm sure a lot of these kids have tried to ignore it, but you know how it is, man. Social media is like a car wreck. You can't not look at it. You can't look away. So and people to ask him, are you going to leave? Are you going to transfer? I mean, if he were tearing it up, they'd be saying, please don't transfer, that kind of thing. So I really think that Bruiser may have been sending a message to Devin and saying, look, we still believe in you, and we know how hard you work, and we appreciate that. But it's funny, Tony, now the next time I hear that from a coach, I'll think about what you just said. Are you saying that these other guys aren't working as hard as he is? But
yeah.
sometimes teammates say that about other teammates, about how hard you were talking about baseball earlier. His teammates right now marvel at the hours and time that John Rhodes puts in, the extra time that he puts in. So sometimes teammates see that, but I think for the most part, it's a confidence thing. That's just a theory.
And it's funny. It's funny you said it too, because even as a freshman, I wasn't playing a lot. Like I really was, I still worked hard every day. Like I said, there's no coach that ever coached me that could say that man cheated me when he stepped on the court. I would never do that, because I love the game so much. And so when I hear a coach say that, if I'm on that team, I'm like, so you telling me I don't work hard, and I
Right.
come in every day, but it's one thing to work. Like I tell people, working hard and working smart. Like you got to put the two together. And what you're saying about him is, yeah, he's being a freshman and having social media now, because I probably would have got scrutinized and they'd have talking about, wow, y'all brought this guy in, he's not good as a freshman. And it would have been in my head. But also, I had some mental toughness about me because I had older brothers and I was prepared for anything. It didn't matter, like I said, if I have a bad game. I know when you're in the gym, you're constantly working on your craft, you're improving, you're getting better, is that it's going to show at some point in time. You might not do it every game because, once again, he is a young player. He did, like I said, he should have been a senior this year, but he felt he was good enough to get enough to come and play for Kentucky. And Kentucky is a whole nother animal that everybody is not prepared for.
If he reaches his full potential, and if he is working as hard as Bruiser says, where do you see his game getting to if the hard work starts to pay off? Where do y'all see him? I mean, we see where he is now. He's in over his head and all that. Where do you see the end result if he reaches his potential?
You take them first, Dick.
All right. Well, I think obviously he's going to be a guy who's here, if not for the duration, for at least 3 years. But I do think that part of that depends on two things. Number one, does Calipari recruit over him? He's always looking for the next great point guard, right? So what's
Right.
going to be Devin's role? Will he play some off guard? I don't believe he's made for that. I think he's a point guard. The other thing too is he's a point guard, and who's he going to be feeding the ball to? A point guard's only as good as the other guys on his team, because his first job, as Tony will tell you, is to make other people better. So if there are teammates with him for the next couple 3 years who are good enough to help make this team make this program what everybody hopes it can be, then yeah, he'll end up being an effective point guard. But if he's feeding the ball to guys who just can't put it in the hole, he's going to struggle as much as they are.
And what I'm thinking about too is I'm telling him about Emmanuel Quickly. I say Emmanuel Quickly was a good player. He came back and he got better.
Yep.
So you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what it is that you want to be. Because being a point guard, is like you said, who am I passing ball to? Can I make the players around me better? What is my decision making? Can I knock down shots from outside? How's my free throw game? How do I finish when I go to the basket? And I just saw Manu Quickly. I was like, man, that dude just, I don't know what he did. I would pick up the phone and be like, Coach, can I talk to Manu Quickly? Because I want to know what he did to come back and be one of the top players in the country and lighting up in the NBA. He's not only lit it up in college, he's doing the same exact thing in the NBA. And a lot of it is, like you said, confidence. Is working hard, it's owning your craft and being good at it. And then, like I said, working hard and working smart, understanding what my role is, what my position is, how do I play with confidence. It shouldn't take the coaches to build confidence if you've been working on your game. Yeah, it's just great to give a great speech, but great speeches, as soon as the ball goes up, that speech is forgotten. It's like, oh, you got to play now. It's like having a plan when you get ready to fight UFC and boxing, and you get hit, you be like, oh, I gotta have another plan. So you gotta have counters. You gotta have things in place that when it don't work out, how do you get yourself back up? Like, you got to find the motivation yourself. And it's great to have teammates and coaches, but when you're mentally tough, and that's the separation between players that sometimes make it to the NBA, players who don't make the NBA, is the mental toughness. Is that you can't always look for people to uplift you. Like, you got to say to yourself, I got to go do this. I got to figure this out. And when I reference Emmanuel Quickly, I just saw a player that played with so much confidence. And we all saw that in this game.
And don't you think, Tony, that mental toughness you talked about is what got him through the early stages. And he's still a rookie, but the early stages this season up in New York, when he was playing in
Oh
front of
yeah,
a fan base that didn't want him, that booed when they heard he was drafted.
exactly,
I guarantee you half those
exactly.
people had no idea who he was,
Yeah.
but they were
But they know
unhappy with
now.
the, oh my God, yes. But
Yeah.
they're screaming for him to be a starter, as you well know.
Yes, they are.
So,
But see, but
ignore
it's
all
so
that
funny.
stuff.
But you know what? That's where you have to block it out. And I think Coach Pitino he was good about telling us don't read the press clip. And when I was a freshman, of course you want to look at the box scores. You want to see, what Big Blue Nation is saying, but going back to the cat calls, what they was writing about.
Message
And he
boards.
really, what he said? Guess what he said? He said, keep your eyes on the prize. He said, live in the precious present. He said, don't worry about the past, don't worry about the future. He said, live in the now. And when you're like 18, 19, like, man, what the hell does that mean? I don't even understand that. Like, can you explain yourself? Like, what do you mean? Like, no, I'm thinking about 2 or 3 years now, I'm going to be in the NBA. But you figure out, you'd be like, okay, take care of now. Because we don't know what's going to happen, tomorrow, the next day, a week from now, So kids need to take care of what's going on in their life right now. And sometimes it's, here's a good thing. Put the phone down.
Yes. Amen, brother.
Uh-huh. That's right. Cats are trailing 21-12 at Ole Miss right now. Not the greatest of starts. But Dick, I know you've been doing sidelines for UK football for a long time. What's the most unique thing you've seen, the most memorable thing you've experienced in all the games you've been doing and reporting on the sidelines? I'm not sure if I've been phrasing it right. What's the craziest thing that that stands out the most?
Unfortunately, the most memorable games are both LSU games.
Ooh.
And one of them, of course, is the Mardi Gras miracle, the pass that crushed everybody. I mean, I tell the sports information people with about a couple, 3 minutes to go who I want to talk to after the game. And of course, this game was going to go down to the last second. And I wish I could remember the name of the kicker, but the kid, I said, I want to talk to the kicker who kicked the field goal to put them ahead. It was a clutch kick. And I'm driving me crazy. I can't remember his name. So Tony, I was talking to Tony Neely, and I said, tell him to meet me, be right over here by the exercise bike on the sideline. And he said, okay, as soon as the game's over, that he'll find you there. And then you all know what happened next. And I'm sitting there with my mouth wide open going, how in the world did that happen? And for some inane reason, I don't know why, but I looked at the exercise bike. And I was like, what? Just an instinct. Of course he wasn't standing there.
Lona
so anyway,
Seaver, right?
No, he was not. No, he was not. Of course not. Of course not. I don't even remember who I talked to after that game.
Was Lona Seaver the kicker?
Pardon me?
Was Lona Seaver the kicker you were trying to get? Or
no, this was before Lonas got there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But speaking of Lonas, he had huge kicks in the upset win over LSU. Watching them beat the number 1 team in America, and they flood the field, that was phenomenal. And it's right up there, a little bit better than when they beat Louisville on the Stevie Johnson touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. That was incredible as well. But there, thankfully there have been a lot of good moments when they won that first Music City Bowl. I had not covered a game I'd covered bowl games. I covered the one in '93 in Atlanta. That wasn't that great. Mm-hmm. And it had been a while since they'd been to a bowl game and since they'd won one. So that was a lot of fun. And then, it's been fun covering the Stoops teams. It really has.
Yeah. So definitely had to get that in too, man. Just wanted to just kind of bounce around and hit all the sports quick while we got you in and before Tony had to lock it up. So definitely appreciate all your insight and glad you're feeling better.
Oh yeah.
And you'll look forward to spring practice is coming. It's fun hearing you on the radio for baseball. Look, man, like I said, WKYT back in the day, I remember you as a kid watching you. So man,
yeah, back when I had a beard.
Yeah, man. Look, I think you posted on Facebook, and you reminded me of like Steve Bedrosian for the Braves.
Oh, very good.
Had a big full beard like that. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
with the
Well, I couldn't shave it off at KYT because my general manager didn't like it. He said the guy who took over, the guy who hired me liked it. He passed away, and the guy who took over, he didn't like it, but he said you can keep it, but if you shave it off, you can't grow it back. And so I think I was married at the time, and the wife liked it, and then I got divorced, and then the girlfriend liked it, all that stuff. So finally, I went to work for 5 years for IMG, for the UK rights holder, and they didn't care either way. So I thought, well, I'll shave it off, and if I don't like what I see, I'll grow it back. I shave it off, and immediately, what do you hear? You look 10 years younger. You think I'm going to grow it back now? There's one person who wants it back in my life every day. That's my daughter. My son's cool with it, but my daughter wants me to grow it back. But I said, Kate, if it comes back now, it's going to be gray.
Right.
She wants it back. So, but I've remarried, and the current wife does not want the beard. I grew it at the beginning of the pandemic. I thought I'm not gonna shave, and I'm not gonna get a haircut till I'm able to go back to the radio station, which we thought was July. We thought it was only going to be 3 months.
Yeah.
Boy, were we wrong.
You would,
She finally, I got a haircut, and she said, "Cut that beard off."
You would have a David Letterman. You'd have a David Letterman beard now if you hadn't.
Oh my gosh! Hey, he's got a little more money than I do. If I had his money, my wife would allow me to grow that beard back.
That's true.
You can do whatever. You can do whatever you want to do with that kind of money. Yeah.
So if I ever get that kind of money, you'll see me with a beard. You guys will know.
There you go. Well, it's been a lot of fun, Dick, man. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you for hopping on the podcast. And man, TD, appreciate your knowledge as always.
Always, brother.
Good night, man. And coach them up like you are, and then look forward to hear you on the SEC stuff next week, man.
Yes, sir. Okay.
See you, Tony.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Here. Rate, review, subscribe. It's been Bleav in Kentucky. We will see y'all next week. For Dick Gabriel, Tony Delk, and Vinny Hardy, this has been another episode of Bleav in Kentucky. Y'all take care.